Before we get into today's video, I'd just like to talk to you about Rec Watches. They're a new collaborator with the channel and they make unbelievably high quality timepieces. This one here that I'm wearing at the moment is the 90103. The face here, the grey, has a unique patina because it is made from parts of the 911, of which the chassis number is on the side here. You may also notice the typography or the font is the same as a 911, and the back here has like a Fuchs style design, and the counterbalance for the automatic movement you'll see has a cross-jeweled rotor effect. The watch itself is just the right weight. You can wear it every day, but it is heavy enough to know you're wearing a high quality unit. If you're any sort of classic car fan, please check them out in the link below. Anyway, let's move on with the video. G'day everyone, I'm Mark. Today's video is about a friend of mine, Nev King. Nev and I met some maybe 8 or 9 years ago and discovered a common interest in 356s. During that time, Nev had started a restoration on the car you will see in this video, a 356A, 1957 Australian delivered. Nev sadly recently passed, just short of his 80th birthday. He had a very big taste for life. He was always very positive, and sadly his demise came about through pancreatic cancer. I was very fortunate to be there when his car was completed, and he did show it at the Porsche Club of Western Australia's Concours d'Elegance last year. So I hope you enjoy the video. Let's enjoy the story of Nev and his 356.
Hello, my name is Nev King, and this is my little baby. It's a 1957 356A T2.
Jonathan King. This car belonged to my father, Nev King. He was looking to get a 356. He had a 911S and was wanting to look at doing a restoration project, and a 356 was it. And then one day in about, would have been early 2000s, he called me and said that he had found a 356 for $11,000. And so I just said, well, why haven't you bought it? And so he did buy it, and then when he brought it home and I saw it, I understood why it was only $11,000, because it was a total basket case. When the car arrived, it was basically just a rusted shell, like what you'd find, I guess, sitting on a farm, you'd see on the side of the road. No engine. I think it must have had wheels on it, so it must have had suspension. All the interior, there was no interior, in fact. I think all the trim and steering and everything was just in boxes. Engine was in boxes, all the mechanicals. It must have been on wheels because we rolled it in. I think he found it, it was advertised in the Quokka or the West Australian in the classifieds section. So I guess back then, what, nearly 15, 20 years ago, people still used the newspaper to advertise their parts in the Quokka. I know I used to get my parts off the Quokka.
So I'm Paul. Had the pleasure of meeting Neville about 4 odd years ago, right when the poor bugger got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And he mentioned to me, I was actually at John's place with the green 911, and he mentioned to me, I've got a 356. Well, good for you. And he says, I've had it at the guy's place for about 5 years and he's been restoring it for me. Oh, okay, how's that going? And he says, oh, That's okay. And I said, look, if you want some guidance, happy to look at it. So that's when the friendship sort of started building, and he was down there, and I said to him, how are you going with the car? And the guy at the time said, 3 weeks, we'll have it painted for you. So anyway, 6 months went by, and the guy hadn't painted it. So we rocked up to the workshop where it was getting painted, and there it was. They all sort of scarfed it about a bit. Probably in the first 30 seconds, I knew Neville was in trouble. We've got to get it out of this workshop. It's not going forward, it's going backwards. So anyway, I hustled around. We sent a truck up and basically hustled it out the door of the body shop. And I thought, right, I'll leave it a couple of weeks before I go around it and point out the issues that are going to need remedying. I was quite busy, and it sat, and finally I got it off Neville, and we thought we were just going to tidy a few little bits up, bolt the nice new suspension, the new engine in it, put the interior in it, and he's going to have a car. So the first problem was the doors didn't shut, because the door aperture was fouling on the inner door frame, purely because there was just a load of filler there. The bonnet didn't fit. So I says, we'll just tidy that bit up and we'll make your bonnet fit. Then you looked at the headlight apertures, and there was no lip to clip the chrome frame round because there was that much filler around the lip. The boot lid had the centrepiece missing, where the water's supposed to be deflected. And I says, I'll make a piece for there, and we'll sort that out for you. We'll have to repaint the boot lid, so I'm going to strip it. So it was about 10mm deep across the entire face. It had no skin flange showing on the inside, it was all filled over. The edge was about 6mm thick. We started digging into it a bit further. The bonnet had between 10 and 20mm of filler in it. All the hollows to the outside were just squared off. And then we started looking at the front guards, and I thought, So on the right-hand front guard, it was 20mm deep in the scallop going out to the top of the guard. The front panel had that much filler in it that all the square edges of the shape of the round underneath the bumper, they were all gone. Even the roof skin was 10 to 15mm deep. It never had any filler put back in it when it was painted. It was perfect underneath the filler. I believe the people spent maybe a year putting filler in that body shell. Inside, round the bottom of the sills, and behind that was still the rusty sill. It just went on. The whole car, it was shiny and silver, but underneath it was rotten, and it was just buried in filler. This particular car, 1957, right-hand drive, Melbourne delivered car, very special car. When we started looking at putting the car together, I said, Neville, where are all the bolts? So the next morning he shows up, this little gem here. Those are the ones we didn't zinc plate because they're actually just house bolts, and that was how he presented what he had. So still not satisfied that was all the fasteners for the car, because he'd had it 15 years and it had been spread all over his house. I even found a rear hub axle bolt in his peg bucket in his laundry. You know, he had a mezzanine in his garage, and he never sort of pointed out that there might be something up there. So one day I said, what's up there, Nev? And he goes, oh yeah, there's some bits up there. And I went, really? Yeah, so I had the car, and we worked on it off and on for Neville. He came and helped a lot of the time, and it probably took in the vicinity of about a year and a half to complete. It was a long project. The bodywork was serious time, just due to the fact that it was so butchered, and we had to go basically right back to square one. Finished outcome of the 356A is you won't get one any better internally than that, down to the A-posts where they're always leaded in the factory. They rot. No one goes in there and fixes those bits because they always look good. I cut the entire top of the A-post out and refabbed it back to all nice new steel. Of course, no lead work put in there with plenty of flux to make it corrode. And it's a solid car. On the Australian market right now, I don't think you'd find one more solid and more rust-free. Generally, people turn a blind eye to the inner structures, and that's the most important bit. It's a good, solid, honest car.
I think when Nev got sick, it was definitely one of my biggest fears is that he wouldn't see the car finished. And his diagnosis, I think, initially was 6 months, and he's always very optimistic. So he was like, it'll be fine, it'll get done. But I was seeing the writing on the wall and the rate in which the car was coming along, and I was scared it wouldn't get finished. But then it did. So I think Paul really finished it off, and Nev helped here and there as much as he could, and the car was living here. And then when we got it finished, it was about a year before Nev passed away. So I think, I actually think that the happiest day probably in my memory is the day that we got the car back and I went round to Neville's and the whole family was there. The car wasn't licensed, but the sun was out and we took turns just driving around the block unlicensed. And yeah, that's a really good memory. And he got to enjoy it for another year and then got to take it to the concourse, which was always something that I think he wanted to do and I wanted him to do. So he was a bit frail towards the end, so I ended up preparing the car on the day before. So I was pretty happy. It was as good as we could have got it, I think. It was brand new and yeah, it was good. Nice day, good memory, and a box ticked.
And I can tell you, there's a panel that I can point to that I made and it's on the car.
Fantastic. Which one is it, Nev?
It's this one. Across the back.
Oh, yeah, between the window and the
And the
engine
engine
lid.
bay, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
So there you are. That increases value by about 100 grand.
Fantastic. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Mark. You're welcome.